Mountain Time at 5, presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado. And we appreciate those of you from Colorado and all over the nation for joining us on our regular Mountain Time at 5 calls. We call this one Philosophy Friday. Jessica Beecham is going to facilitate it. I cannot wait to hear the different points of view and the different perspectives that our community in the National Federation of the Blind has to offer and to discuss and to debate. And we also appreciate those of you who are blind people who may not be members of our National Federation of the Blind family in whatever you are affiliate. We're happy to have you along. We'd be happier if you decide to join with us and join the Federation family, and you can be in touch with us to get more information about that and some of the other things we're doing by sending an email to assistance@nfbco.org, assistance@nfbco.org. We also have the COVID-19 hotline. We want you to remind folks about that. If you know folks in Colorado particularly who are in trouble or needing something special, they're really isolated, they can't get to the store, whatever the challenge around COVID-19 might be, you can use that number. It is our Colorado Center for the Blind CCB phone number, 303-778-1130, and extension 219. Do want to remind folks that we will not be here a week from today for Philosophy Friday on Mountain Time at 5. Instead, we're going to hope folks will join Mountain Time at 6, which would be 8 Eastern, for the presidential release live, as President Rick Obono did it live last month with, I don't know, close to 1,000 people. Over 900, I guess. And in the beginning, some folks had trouble getting in. So we severely underestimated the interest, I guess, in hearing President Maurer doing it live. And folks will be able to submit questions. That's next Friday at 6. And the Zoom coordinates, as I call them, are out there. If you don't have them, send us an email, assistance@nfbco.org, and we'll get that. Also want to remind folks to go ahead and register now for the National Convention. It will be virtual. It will be fascinating. It will be enriching. It will be its usual powerful, entertaining, and informative convention, but it'll be done different. We're going to be physical distancing, but social gathering over a variety of platforms that our National Center and our National Board are working on. If you have ideas for the convention, please be in touch with President Mark Riccobono and the National Board. Do want to hear from the members with your brainstorms and innovative ideas to make this gathering, which will undoubtedly be the largest gathering of blind people in the world, this July 13th through 19th. I think those are the announcements that I have. Workout Wednesday and all the usual stuff will be next week. And remember to attend your local chapter meetings. One other thing, the Blind Coloradan blog is up on nfbco.org, our website, on the blog spot. And it's a nice Blind Colorado blog that came out yesterday. And I'm done here. So, Kevin, I think Maureen and Jessica can take it from here. Thanks, you all.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at some different scenarios today, and we're going to find out what your opinion is, and some of you will get to say why that's your opinion. So you're going to fall into a yes category or a no category, and so I'll say, you know, if you agree with this, raise your hand, or if you don't agree with this, you know, raise your hand, blah, 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 whatever. Then we'll have some people speak. Okay.
So Jess, you want me to start with the first question?
Sure.
I love this question. So, would you let a blind person do home repairs for you?
So if you would let a blind person do home repairs for you, so like if you would hire a blind person to do home repairs, or heck, maybe even if they would just volunteer to do it for free, would you let a blind person, would you have them do your home repairs? Raise your hand if you would not let a blind person do home repairs.
All right, this is not.
So raise your hand if you would not allow a blind person to do home repairs for you.
I think most of these are, yeah, most of these are yeses, I'm sure, because you started out with yes. Yeah, I'm going to lower a bunch of hands, and then, all right, now
we're going to lower
hand.
them all,
Yes.
And then you can start again.
Now, if you would not, raise your hand.
Yeah.
*9 if you dialed in under the More section on the app, and Alt-Y on the computer. All right, we're gonna go with Kira.
I don't really, I don't really know how, how a blind person would do certain things. That's the only reason I would say no.
Okay.
That's okay.
Who
Yeah.
else?
That's probably why a lot of people would say no. Really.
Lashana.
Yeah.
No, my hand was supposed to be down up when it was
Okay.
here. Not that.
Okay. All right. We've got Mary. You can hit unmute there, Mary. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think I would because of the insurance concern.
Okay.
All right. So how about we hear from somebody who said that they would allow blind people to do home repair? Kevin, if you want to choose somebody in that group.
All right. Go ahead and raise your hand. *9, Alt-Y, or under the more section. All right. We've got Stuart. Stuart Post.
Yes, I would, provided that I knew that that person knew what they were doing, were qualified for the job, as I would with any other person. I wouldn't necessarily choose a blind person over a sighted, but I would definitely consider somebody, because I know there are people who are mechanically inclined who are blind and are quite capable of doing that, depending on what the job is.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's kind of,
I've got a
Go
follow-up
ahead.
question for you. Would you be more cautious in choosing?
Would I be more cautious?
So, like, if you were choosing, if you were choosing somebody to paint your house, you might get painters, and you would check the references, or blah 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 blah, whatever process that you would do. Would you do the same process with a blind person as a sighted person, or would you be more cautious when you were checking up on the references of blind painters? Let's say.
I would probably be the same. It depends on the ability of the person and what experience they've had.
Okay.
All right.
Very good. Let's take one more in that.
Viviana.
Yes, I would definitely. And they would probably hate it because I'd be bugging them the whole time, having them show me how to do it. Because I've done loads and loads of my own home repairs and building projects. So if I find something that I can't do, it's probably something pretty tough. And I would probably be having them show me their different techniques or their nifty cool new gear they have to be able to do certain things. But yes, I would definitely. And I would do the same background check as I would, like checking references, and just like I would Google them or whatever for anybody, whether they're blind or sighted.
All right.
Very good. So let's take this a step further. Let's take down all the hands, Kev. Let's take this a step further. And let's say you have your same problem, but you're having major electrical problems, and you're going to have your house rewired. Would you hire a blind person to do your electrical work? Raise your hand if you would not. Let's start with the nots first.
All right. Would not. We've got phone number 6282.
Yeah, me, Yvonne.
Yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that because that's electricity, and I wouldn't want a fire hazard. And even though they could be skilled, I would be nervous with anybody anyway,
Mm-hmm. All right. We've got Alexa Hansen.
What,
Alexa.
yes, but you're asking me why? Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking?
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
I mean, that's a delicate type of repair, and I would just want someone that that could see what needs to be done, and they can work a whole lot faster. again, not all sighted person can do everything correctly either, but still a good start.
All right. Do we have any more? Let's take one more. So we have how many knots, Kev?
There's
About
four more.
4 more knots. So we had 6 knots out of how many?
There's 50.
Okay. So let's take one more from the knots and let's hear them from some of the people who are in favor.
Anna, you can hit unmute there, Anna. We go with phone number 2713.
Oh yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Can you hear? Oh,
Yeah.
hi. Yes, I was trying to unmute myself, but I couldn't.
No.
Yes, I'm calling from Florida. Thank you for taking my my opinion here. As a matter of fact, I'm moving to Virginia and during the summer, and I was just talking to the contractor about some electrical work that has to be done in the apartment. Well, I'm pretty concerned about electricity, and I don't think I would take a blind person to do electric work because I don't know, but for whatever I have done in terms of doing repairs in properties and stuff that I managed, I think some of the wires are colorful and they go by color code, I guess, and that requires some sight. But of course, if the person has an assistant, that would be helping because he might have the ability to do that and know and have become blind. That certainly I would contract that person. But only the person that is blind or visually blind to do electrical work, I don't think I would do that. Not because I'm mistrustful, it's just because of the nature of the work. Thank you.
Let's take these hands down and let's have the folks that said yes raise their hands, and let's get a few of those opinions.
All right, raise your hand for yes, you would. Let's see them again. They're moving a lot. All right. Kevin, yours was up.
Okay, great. I guess I would just mention, I find it fascinating. And I'm not judging anyone because people feel the way they feel, and you know that's valid and reasonable to feel the way you feel. Also, people come to blindness from different places in their life, different cultures. They've had more or less exposure to our National Federation of the Blind thought process as we have grown as an organization. I will tell you, not only would I hire a blind person to do homework and electrical repair, I have. In the 80s and 90s, there was a gentleman who was an electrician, totally blind. His name was Mark Dew. He did all kinds of home repair, totally blind. Now, he knew about color coding, and he had methodologies to deal with that. Sometimes he would bring in an sighted associate, just like a regular contractor might subcontract grouting or whatever. So to me, you check the references. If they say they can do it, they got a proven track record. By the way, insurance should not be an issue, and if it is, I would fight that. But I would allow blind people to do almost anything. I'd let them do, you know, I might draw the line at brain surgery. I'd have to think about it.
What if it was a toe? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Then we've got Karis. You can hit unmute there, Karis.
Hello.
Okay.
Hey. So I would definitely not have any issues with a blind person doing electrical work in my place of residence. I've done some electrical work my own. I've worked with electricity, you know, in my schooling. And I've definitely had people do electrical work in my place right now. And one of the things I've noticed the most is, yes, they do use, you know, some color coding, and that's easy enough, you know, to either use, you know, some kind of indicator that you can feel or a color identifier with to help with, or things like that. But another thing that's huge with anyone who works in the electrical field, sighted or not, is that they all use sound indicators to help with that. I mean, even when they can see, sound indicators are huge, and anyone who is blind is going to be using those exact same sound indicators to help with that. It's really not that big of a transition to make to go from doing that. And again, like has been said before, you're going through the same training and you're figuring out how to figure out what differences you need to do. So I would certainly not have any problem at all having a blind person do my electrical work, provided they've gone through the training, just like any sighted person would have. So.
All right. Now we've got phone number. Where's it at? 4832 ends in 4832.
All right, this is Dorothy.
Hey, Dorothy.
Hi, I agree. If they, I'm assuming with being an electrician, you have to be licensed, so means they have been trained. And I also know that there's technology to help them. And even if they brought an assistant or they were an apprentice, I would let them go ahead and do it, because there's a lot of ones that don't do a good job and they can see well. So I would let someone do it.
All
All
right.
right, let's take, since we had so many more of those, let's take one or two more from that side of the fence.
All right. We're going to go with, let's get Robert.
Yeah, I definitely would hire a blind person. I mean, if the person is qualified and has the license and has gone through the proper training, I would definitely hire a blind person. They would be capable. They've gone through the training. It would prove to me that that person would be capable of doing the job that I would want them to do.
All right. Get that one. Here, we'll take Micah here. You can hit unmute there, Micah.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I would definitely hire somebody with no sight, because it'd be interesting to see how, I guess, they would go about, and I would definitely have questions and would inquire how they go about doing their business, because I'm a very curious type of person, just in general.
All right.
All right. Well, I think those were some good answers. So I'm curious to know, anybody who voted no either way on those, did you change your mind to yes after you heard different arguments? Let's see a raise of hands.
So if you originally voted no and would reconsider. All right. We've got Mary and
Yes,
Kira.
I think I would still not allow that. If I had a handyman in my house that did just about anything else, I'd be fine with that. But electricity and working with furnaces, that type of stuff, I just get real nervous and wouldn't want that fiddled with.
Okay.
But then again, I'd be picky with most people. Doesn't matter whether they have eyes or not.
Right. All right. Kira?
Well, just kind of listening to some of the other comments here, I'd be curious, especially about the whole, about the question about electrical work, that there are sound indicators and stuff that all of them would use. I'd be curious and open about that to that. If I would be curious. I sort of would say I'm kind of open-minded now.
Okay.
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
then Sheila. Sheila?
I would do it in a heartbeat. I have a friend who he's not certified, but he does all kinds of stuff on his, in his house and stuff. So I wouldn't even think twice about having him do anything.
Perfect.
All right.
Fantastic. All right. So
Are we ready for the next question? Are we on this one? Okay. So let's move on to another question. Would you let a blind person babysit?
If you would not, do the raise hand. Or would you?
yeah, if you would not want a blind person to babysit, raise your hand.
So *9, Alt Y, and under the More section on the app. No hands
All
right
right.
now.
Oh, good.
Awesome. What about your infant?
Yeah, like a newborn.
So what if it's newborn and you would not raise your hand? Still no hand?
When I asked that question, I think that I am glad to see this response on this call. I asked the question, or Maureen asked the question. We talked about this one because a while back there was a segment on a podcast called The Breakfast Club, where a blind woman in college was saying, that she was really upset because a lot of sighted people were not letting her have the opportunity to babysit. And I was really surprised at the number of blind people who, after that, I saw that were like, I wouldn't let other blind people babysit. So I'm glad that that we on this call would all be for that. So since what's that?
Marianne has her hand
Okay,
up.
go ahead, Marianne.
Marianne?
I was just going to say, for those who remember 80s and 90s and such like that, those who know or who remember Mariah Carey, I was very good friends with the girl who babysitted her when my friend Lisa was a teenager. She used to babysit Mariah Carey, and Lisa is definitely totally blind and such, and Mariah Carey gave her credit for it as an adult and everything, and just said, oh my God, I couldn't believe how cool she was as a babysitter. And we gave kudos to her family, because that was back in the 70s, way before our opinions were as focused and modern as they are now.
Nice.
That's cool.
All right. So after this COVID-19 epidemic is over and we can all get out of our houses, many of us, go ahead and put them down. Many of us are going to be going out to the hairdressers for haircuts and colors and different things like that. How many of us would visit a blind hairdresser? Raise your hand.
If you would.
Raise your hand.
All right, we have got Karen. Karen's iPhone.
Yep.
You would?
I would definitely go to a blind hairdresser.
All right, tell us why.
Oh, I figured that if you're a blind hairdresser and you're licensed and everything, I figured you know what you're doing.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, if it was like a solid color, I believe that you know what you're doing. But when you're not getting streaks and stuff or highlights, I guess that might be a little different. Maybe I don't get highlights, but
so you're a little
I would trust you.
On the highlights, but you would definitely let them cut.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Absolutely. I'd let you do everything. I figured if you're in that shop, if you came to my house, there's one thing. I would still trust you to do some stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're in the shop, I assume that they'll have you there if you're a professional like all the other hairdressers. Absolutely, I would do it.
All right. Let's go with somebody else, Kev.
Let's get.
How many of hands do we have in
There's
that area?
about 14-ish.
Okay, cool. Ooh, that's a little more. This one's a little more divided than the other one. There's a lot
Phone
more
number
no's.
ending in 1892.
It gets personal when we talk about hair.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I would. Am I muted or not?
Oh, you're good.
No, we can hear you.
No, she just muted.
Oh, just kidding.
All right.
Wait.
There you
Am
go.
I don't know. Am I still unmuted?
No, you're
There
good.
you are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There. I would, let anybody cut my hair who I knew had experience. I mean, what can you do to a haircut? I mean, the worst it can do is it'll grow out again. Now, color. Now, I've never colored my hair in my life, but if I ever, got really embarrassed about this gray hair, I would certainly never let anybody blind or sighted color it like in the bathroom sink or, and I would go to a professional. And I assume that if you are licensed and if you are doing it, that you would have to know what you were doing regardless. And I don't know, what the levels of qualification are with, hair coloring, but that you can't, sight, you have to know the chemistry of hair coloring. Sight, just seeing the color of my hair, what it is now, you might see what's happening, but then kind of when it dries and 2 days from now, it's still different. So you have to have some knowledge of that regardless of that. And I think sight would be a benefit, but I wouldn't, I would assume that if you had passed all the tests you're supposed to pass, that you must know what you're doing or you wouldn't have passed them.
Sounds good. Let's take another from that.
All right, we're going to go with Catherine. Catherine J.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree with everybody else. As long as the person has experience, I would definitely do it. Because with me, I'm a computer. I build computers and stuff, so a lot of blind. Well, there's blind people that do it, but a lot of blind women don't. So I'm kind of a little bit.
Very good. All right, so let's put those hands down. And then we're going to put the nose up. And let's hear from a few of the nose.
All right. Corliss?
Yes.
All right. You wouldn't hire a blind hairstylist? Why would you not?
I put my hands up. I just was a little late. I would. I would, because if they they're in the business. I figured they passed everything. They know what they're doing.
All right. Then we'll go Maria Bradford. You can hit the unmute there. While they're doing that, we'll go with this one. All right. Phone number ending in 2713.
Yes, hi, this is Diana. Start again. I raised my hand before, but I have to explain why I wouldn't do. I have highlights, and my hair particularly. I don't have white hair, but my hair has a very it's a very strong pigmentation. So my hairdresser, when she does the highlights, she has to be monitoring where she does the highlights to see what color it is, because my hair takes a longer time to, let's say, to get lighter. So in my case particularly, I would not use it for highlights, but if it was a solid color, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with that. And I just want to make an observation here that is funny, because my hairdresser has a tendency to cut my hair one side shorter than the other. When I had the Chanel, yeah. And then one day I said to her, Maria, let me explain something to you. You have to not cut the other side, because you have to learn one thing about me. I don't look at the mirror to see it. I feel it. So I can feel that one side is shorter than the other. And now every time I go in there, she says to me, she says, oh, I'll be very careful because I know you feel it, right? So she's like, she learned, and she's very careful now because she knows I don't go by sight, I go by touch. So I can pick up her mistakes even if I don't see it. It's so funny.
So that's another cut but no color. So let's take another couple, Kev.
All right, let's see. 628.
Maria Bradford is here.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Maria, you've got yours undone there.
Yes, Maria Bradford is here, and I'd like to know, before they started in on my hair, how the products are, how they label their products, because I would want to know what products they had, and I've had several poor experiences with sighted beauty operators who, because I can't see, decide they're going to just do what they want to do instead of what I ask them to do. So I'm pretty careful about that. But I think it would be okay once I got to know the person and interviewed her for a couple minutes and made sure how he or she labeled their products, kept everything together.
All right. So we're wanting to take a couple more of the no sides here.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't let them do most procedures, hairstyles, but maybe a perm, because the other one, the perm, you could feel better. You could feel it better, but the other hair things, I wouldn't let them do that. Unless they're braiding, maybe braiding and cornrows and perms, I would do, but nothing else.
Okay.
No cuts.
Right. No cuts, no, because they might cut your scalp or something.
In here.
You know.
All right, and then Catherine, which you had, yeah. All right, so that's all the no's there.
So can I just tell you? So one of my first jobs was actually in a hair salon. My mom is a hairdresser, so I grew up around, hair. And then I went blind when I was 17. So when I was 19 and in school, I started working at my mom's hair salon, and I did shampooing, and I put on perm solutions and that kind of stuff. But then all the hairstylists who never had time to get their hair done, I would color their hair.
Nice.
So I was kind of a blind hairdresser.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's super fun.
And you can unmute. You don't have hair. What are you talking about?
I know. So I would just say I think this is interesting conversation in that I do think it is. Let me just reiterate. I think it's reasonable for a blind person to say, I'm a little leery of that. I don't know how I would do it, and it makes me nervous. And so, I think for some of to say, just like sighted people do, well, I'm not going to allow a blind person to do that. I think the only thing to bear in mind is remember that sighted people often believe that we can do very, very little. Yeah. You could have this same conversation among 50 sighted people, and I can guarantee you 45 of them would say that they wouldn't hire a blind electrician or they wouldn't hire a blind hair stylist. And whatever people feel, that's what they feel. But we're a part of the general public too, so it's incumbent on us to educate each other about our capacity and the sighted folks about our capacity. Thanks, Kev.
Yep.
And I have a blind friend, and she recently went through cosmetology school and is doing hair. And I mean, it seems like she has a pretty good clientele. She's in Tennessee and I'm in Colorado, so I haven't had her do my hair. And I know her as a human, not just as a blind person. And I have to say, I'm not sure if I would have her do my hair, but it doesn't have to do with that she's a blind person. But
I think what's interesting about all this too is, like Kira had said, first she didn't know about having a blind person do something, but it was because she didn't know how they would do it. And I think that's kind of the trend here, right? Like, until we know how somebody does something, how can we be comfortable with it? I mean, even whether you're blind or sighted. So even like, it was one hairdresser who said was desperate. She had roots and was like, Maureen, you could do this. You've been watching people put color on for years. And once I did her color, I mean, I did every single hairdresser's color in that salon monthly. Once they saw, and once one person trusted me, the whole mindset changed.
That makes complete sense. So Maureen, do you want to take the next one?
Sure. So say that we all went to an amusement park and there was an option that if you were blind, you could go to the front of the line on every single ride. Would you take that opportunity?
All right. So if you would go to the front of the line, raise your hand. Micah, you can hit unmute there. All right.
All right. Yeah. In front of the whole amusement park, huh? Yeah. I would definitely take that. I'd be like, oh, yeah. Me, I have no sight. I have no problem taking the front of the line.
Okay.
I'm just joking,
Okay, so you wouldn't. I'm confused.
Micah, so
You would or you wouldn't?
confirm that. You can unmute, Mike. There you go.
Oh, all right. Yeah. No, I wouldn't. I just wanted to say that. Just to,
Okay.
Okay.
So you would not. All right. Let's go with phone number 8436.
Yeah, this is Katie Taylor. I would find it, easier if I'm in an amusement park and I'm not familiar with, first of all, I don't know where the line starts or ends. If I'm in the front of a line, or even if there's another person ahead of me, at least I have some idea of where a line begins. I have complete and total loss of vision. So it would be easier for me to be up at the front for gauging purposes.
Okay. Robert.
Yeah, I would go to the front of the line. Similar reason that, you don't know how long the line is. You don't know who's in front. And now with the issues with COVID-19 and social distancing, and I realize that's going to make a difference in when amusement parks open. But I think being the front of the line would just be a safer thing in general. Plus, I've got other health issues that really prohibit me from standing for any length of time.
All right. Mary.
Yes. I can't tell on. Am I okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry. I've gone to amusement parks for years. I've had other disabilities, not just my eyes, and I would absolutely go to the front. Usually the rule is that you could bring 5 people with you. So I'll drag a family along and we have a great old time. But I have some things where I need to not wait in a long line.
All right. Curtis, you can unmute, Curtis. All right.
Okay. Am I coming through okay?
Yep.
So I am not voting in favor of being placed at the head of the line.
I'm surprised.
Well, no, I wanted to respond to a couple of these comments. Right. So what is it about blindness that causes us to deserve this is the first question I would ask. And don't talk about the other health problems or all that. What is it about blindness itself? And the second question I would ask is what price do we pay if on a routine basis, blind people were encouraged or allowed to always go to the front of the line. When my daughter was 3 years old, I used to go to places with her, and she learned early on that the cane was kind of a clear the path so dad could get up to the front of the line, which is something that she found extremely pleasurable until dad caught her at it. And then dad put a kibosh to it. So I think we have to think about what is the rationality behind this for somebody whose only problem is loss of sight? And secondly, what is the cost to us as individuals if at the same time that we get permitted to go to the head of the line, we are vying for the same jobs and opportunities in the community as our sighted peers, and then we whine about how come we didn't get the job? That's my question.
Okay. Let's go Bashoy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, so I just wanted to say that, yeah, I would love going at the head of the line. And I would say, I just heard Curtis say, at what price or for what reason. Maybe one reason I just thought of would be because the person that we would be waiting behind in line may not necessarily be comfortable with a cane, maybe hitting the back of their legs, tapping the back of their legs, so they might feel uncomfortable. That's just something that I just thought of right now. But I also thought of, when you go to Disneyland or some amusement parks, they have easy passes, and you could pay a little bit extra to go in the front of the line. So, I'll get my money's worth, and I'll definitely take that if they offer that.
Yep.
All right. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks very much. I think that I really respect Curtis's view on this because I think it's something we've talked about in the National Federation of the Blind for generations. I must say that my view has changed over the last decade and fairly rapidly. You know, sighted people can take advantage of a lot of things in amusement parks than I can. They have, this goes back to sighted privilege. I guess we did this on Philosophy Friday 4 Fridays ago. If I ride on a Star Wars ride, I can enjoy the movement, the smells, the herky-jerky. I can't see any of that cool automation. I think that it all evens out. You know, we in the National Federation of the Blind educate our members of Congress for tax credits and tax breaks and all kinds of things. I think it's harder than ever for a blind person to get around crowded amusement parks. I think if you're doing it for the right reason. Now, if you're doing it because you know in your, I got over, I scammed somebody. You know what? I can't do anything about your morality. But in terms of blindness and other disabilities, I can see a lot of reasons why you should go to the head of the line. Look, it's like pre-boarding. Do you pre-board an airplane? I do, almost all the time now. Why? Because it's a lot easier for me and everybody else for me to get on that plane and slide my butt in my seat. And so it's one more or less point of drama. I do not believe some employer's going to ever say, gosh, Kev, I would have hired you, but I saw you take that extra benefit at the roller coaster. I think that's faulty logic that we've been victims of for 2 generations.
All right, so let's take another no. Let's put hands down and have hands up for just somebody that wants to comment on the no side.
All right. Who else would not go to the front of the line? All right. Kira, you would not go.
Well, I mean, I'm sort of, I guess you could say I'm sort of on the fence, but I would lean toward no because, I mean, I do pre-board when I get on a plane, but I feel like that's different from, you know, getting on a roller coaster or something like that because, I mean, I know that that those lines can be just as crowded as at the airport, but I feel like, you know, pre-boarding is actually for a good reason because the jetway is so narrow and everything. But back to the original question, I totally echo what Curtis said earlier. I don't really know how else to put it, but yeah, I mean, I would understand like other disabilities, you know, people who might not be able to stand very long or whatever, or have other health issues. But as far, I mean, I'm only blind, and so I don't, you know, and I also feel like I would be taking it away from someone who might need it more than me.
All right. And Michael, you said you would not, right?
Yes, I said I would not because for myself, well, in the beginning, I just wanted to clarify, I'm kind of a jokester, I'm a prankster. So when I get I guess, an inkling to want to mess with people, I would. So that's the reason why I raised my hand for the yes. And
no worries, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
anyways,
that's cool.
We like jokesters.
But for me, I wouldn't take to the front of the line because it's just an amusement park. It's entertainment. It's not something that is substantial that I would need in my life. And if it's something like boarding an airplane, I would get it. It would make the work more efficient for the workers of the airliners and as well as the other passengers because they don't want to have to be dealing with my cane and I guess my presence. It would make them a bit more cautious of how they would move and how I would interpret their movements. But when it comes to an amusement park, I can wait. So.
All right.
All right.
And
Okay, go ahead. You take him, and then we're gonna ask another. Let's see if we change.
No, I'm good.
Okay, so now I just want to ask if hearing these responses, did anyone change their position? If you changed your position over the course, raise your hand.
Yeah, Curtis.
Oops, sorry, Kev.
Do you have any hands for that? No.
2713, phone number 2713. I'm getting you back, Kevin.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I've been waiting for a while to talk. I'm not sure because I'm on my phone. Normally, I'm in my tablet, and it's been hard for me to unmute myself. So I'm kind of missing a few of the answers there. So I would ask you please to just take a look at the raised hands because right now I have my phone
Hold on
number
one
on
second.
it.
I'll explain to you. So we're just taking a few people each question. So we're muting and unmuting you. So we'll call on you periodically. So there you go.
Okay. The reason, well, I would be in the front of the line. And like the gentleman just said, it's like, or somebody just said about the airline boarding priorities. I think we have to be concerned about other people as well, not only us, not only our independence. We have to put that in perspective. That's my point of view. Because if we board first, especially in an amusement park, the people that are handling the let's say the ride, they have to accommodate us, and I've been through it. So they have to have the time to accommodate us before they accommodate other people that are, like, say, sighted. So I think it is like the same as the airplane. They board us first for a particular reason. Is a matter of consideration to the other passengers. And I think the same applies to the amusement park. So I just wanted to reiterate that to the people that have spoken about it before me.
I want to just comment and say that I understand that. I really, really do. I think we have to be careful though, and I would urge us as we evolve in our thinking to be careful that everybody has to accommodate us. When I said I would be happy to pre-board, some of that is to ease situations. Some of that is to reduce my own travel anxiety. Some of that is so that when I'm trying to get my bag up there, I don't elbow the guy because I actually didn't see that he was there, whereas a sighted person might see that he was there. It just ungums the whole complicated flying process, in my view, which reduces everyone's anxiety. But I don't think you should be forced to pre-board. If you, the airlines should not have to do a lot of special accommodation to blind people that I could think. There may be accommodations to blind people with other disabilities, age, whatever. But to say, well, I'm never going to pre-board or I'm never going to stand in the line ahead, I think is rigid.
Curtis?
Yeah, I frankly confess some concern about the views I'm hearing here today because it assumes that by virtue of blindness, that there are problems that arise with doing things like negotiating a line at the amusement park or boarding an airplane. And I'm not saying that every blind person shouldn't pre-board or that every blind person should. I think it should be thought of on a case-by-case basis. With regard to the amusement park question, though, since I fought with Scott Labar and other people in the National Federation of the Blind for 5 years to have equal treatment at the Valley Fair amusement park, I would not want to get up and say that as a right, we, the blind, simply because of blindness, should be allowed to stand at the head of the line in all situations. I think that there may be reasons why individual people might be permitted to go to the head of the line, and it might be that blindness is one of those reasons. But if we are standing here today or sitting here, lying here today saying that every blind person should be enabled to go to the head of the line simply because of blindness,
I don't think anyone said that.
Well, I kind of get the
No,
idea.
I don't think, Curtis, I don't think anyone said that. I think the question is, would you personally, I read the questions, are you willing, would you go to the head of the line? And some of us said, yes, we would for a lot of reasons.
Right, so what would we do, Kevin,
should we be obligated?
What
or
would
should
we
it be
do?
set in rule? The answer is no.
Yeah, what should we do? What would we do if the park said every blind person must go to the head of the line? Or what would we do? What would we do if the park said the opposite, that no person who is only blind would not go to the head of the line? Would we have
That's rigid thinking. We would oppose it.
I'm not the one. I think that we have to be careful that parks do have rigid thinking. That's why we fought with Valley Fair.
So you're saying if they disagree with us about flexibility, we should quit?
No, I say if they disagree with us, we should validate the reason why we want to do the thing that we're asking them to do. So for example, if it makes sense from our point of view that somebody go to the head of the line, let's be prepared to support it. Let's also not look down on people in either case. So I don't look down on you because you express a preference that you would go to the head of the line. And I trust that my colleagues in the Federation would not disrespect my position, which is if I get offered and if I say no, I have a right to say no, and I have a right to stand in a line with everybody else. I don't believe that it's correct to disrespect any view. I just am always concerned about what a position says with regard to how somebody or some entity, some organization thinks about the characteristic of blindness, which is something we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
If
This
it
is
says
fun. Well,
that they have a very bad attitude about blind people, that's a problem for me.
Yeah, I agree. Understood. Okay, we can take it further, but I know other people want to talk other than Chong and Worley. Thanks, Curtis. Thank you very much.
We've got Nancy. You can hit on mute, Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
I think this situation, it has to be, you know, on a case-to-case basis. I would personally go to the front of the line, depending on the situation. For example, if I am at the end of the day and I've been waiting to ride this amazing roller coaster, and I only have maybe a couple of hours, but the line is 3 hours long, then yeah, I'll take it. I'll go to the front of the line. But that's not because I'm blind. That's because I don't want to be standing there for 3 hours and miss the opportunity to ride this roller coaster.
So you're using your
now if I, you know, if it's early in the morning and then they're trying to tell me to go in the front of the line and I think I can wait there, then I'll do it. But I don't think it is because I'm blind. And I think many people, speaking of the pre-boarding situation, many people pre-board, and it's not because of being blind or having a disability. Families with young children, they are able to pre-board because it takes a little longer when you have your little one trying to sort everything. Maybe you have multiple bags that you want to carry, and it would take you longer. So it's not because you're blind that you're being offered to pre-board. It's because it might take you a bit longer to get where you need to go. For me, you know, sometimes if I'm in an unfamiliar airport, I might not even know where my gate is. So I would ask for assistance for someone to walk with me to my gate. And I'm doing that because that makes it easier for me. And it's not because I consider it an entitlement because I'm blind. Now, I do want to say that I disagree with a caller. I'm sorry, I don't know the name, but she said that we should be accommodated. I don't think that we should be accommodated. That's not, you know, let's not go into that either, because it's not something that they must do. It's not an obligation. It's something they offer, but they are not obligated to accommodate us. They do it, but it's not that they have to. So we have to be very careful on how we request, you know, these privileges, or, and I don't even know if privilege is the right word, but we have to be really careful how we say it, because then, yes, it could cross the line of saying, oh, well, every blind person wants to do this because they feel entitled that they have to. So that's my 2 cents on this.
All right.
Thank you,
it's about choice too. You know, you have to have the choice to know when it's best for you. And it's a service that is provided, in my view, the same way you can walk all the way to the rent-a-car, or in a lot of airports, they accommodate drivers by providing them a shuttle.
All right. So we're going to do one more question here. So right now, if a person gets SSDI and they are blind, they can work and they can earn $2,100 a month working and still collect their full SSDI. If a sighted person, or with a different disability that's still receiving SSDI, can only earn $1,200 a month. Do we agree that that's appropriate? Raise your hand if you agree that it's appropriate for a blind person to be able to work and earn almost double the amount and still claim SSDI.
Karen, you think that's appropriate?
I think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate because it's harder for, I think, blind people to get jobs anyway, because there's a lot of stigmas attached with people thinking you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do anything hardly because you're blind.
As opposed to any other disability?
Yep.
Well,
Okay.
statistically,
I think it's discrimination with all disabilities, but
just to play a little devil's advocate, statistically across the board, the unemployment rate is pretty consistent as far as blindness compared with other disabilities. So just put that out there.
All right. We got Bishoy.
Hello, can you hear me again?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say that I do receive SSDI, and I think that with blind people, you, like spending money on things like Uber to get to work, people that are in like rural locations that don't have transportation as accessible to them as people in like, cities, they have to spend a little bit more on transportation. And I know that there is Access-a-Ride and things like that, but there's a process, to get to that level. So I think spending money on transportation, blind people have to take that into account,
Okay.
All right.
All right, let's take another yes.
All right, we're gonna go with Wynn's iPhone, WYN. You can hit unmute there. There you go. Yep.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yep.
I don't think it's appropriate.
You do or do not?
Do not.
Well, this is for Jews. Okay, so we'll
All
get.
right, we'll go ahead and take it. What do you want to say?
Why do you think it's not appropriate?
Because we all disabled, right?
Yeah.
We are the, so we have to be treated the same.
Okay.
We have our difficulty. They have their difficulty too.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. All right, we'll get Robert here.
Appropriate simply because we have more expenses. I know the one person brought up transportation, which is a big expense, especially if you are like in my case when I did telephone customer service, I had to work the late shift, and sometimes there isn't public transportation, but there could be other expenses, blind expenses that a company might not pay for, that we would have to get, depending on that, if we get it to rehab or whatever the case may be, that we do have added expenses. So yes, I do think it is appropriate.
All right. And we've got the Curtis. You can hit unmute, Curtis.
Okay, am I coming through?
Sure.
Okay, so I believe that what should happen is that the other disabilities SGA should be raised to the level of the blind. We were fortunate that we got there first, but everybody has a disability who is receiving SSDI benefits, and there ought to be enough generosity in our society and our government that anybody with a disability should be able to have the same SGA as the blind, so that all disabilities are the same. I don't want to take us back to where they are, but I want them elevated to our level. And as a matter of fact, I'd be thinking that there's a time and a place to raise this SGA amount even higher, so that you can encourage more people to go to work and pay more taxes. Thank you.
All right. Yep.
I couldn't agree anymore with what he has said. I wonder, and I hope, Kevin, you won't mind me saying this, I wonder how many of our callers and participants know that the guy that's managing the call is a person in a wheelchair who's, I don't know, C4, C6, quad, whatever. Exactly. I think he might argue with us about the expense. It's not as easy to get a wheelchair grant as we might think. And wheelchairs cost a lot more than my Braille Focus. And I'm sure there's just as many expenses. So I think, Curtis, we were smart over the last 60, 70, 50, 40 years to lobby as the National Federation of the Blind, not technically lobby, but certainly educate. And we were able to get a lot of benefits for us. And I would just hope, and I think we're doing a better job of collaborating with other disabilities to try to empower all of us at the same level. Thanks, Ken.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna reverse that question, right?
Take some notes.
And we're gonna say if you do not agree that the blind should get a higher SSDI or be able to earn more. All right. Kira, you do not agree with that. Why is that?
Well, I don't agree that the blind should get more than other disabilities because of what Curtis already said. Because I mean, I know a lot of people in wheelchairs, and I don't have all the numbers and everything, but I'm sure a wheelchair is, especially an electric wheelchair, is more expensive than a braille display, and so several $1,000s more, and it's not easy. Plus, all the other accommodations that someone with other disabilities might need.
All right. Thank you, Kira. Karis?
Hello. So I would not agree that the blind in particular should receive more money than any other particular disability. I know when it comes to transportation, even before I lost my vision, I was already dealing with a disability that in which come. But I would definitely agree that if we were to make that equal among more disabilities than just the blind, that I do think that would certainly be something that would be, I think, frankly, amazing to be able to do. But I don't think it should be limited to one disability and one disability only.
Thank you. Phone number 8436 ends in 84.
Yes, this is Taylor again.
Okay.
I do agree with a lot of what people have said. What we do need to do is, right now as it stands, the system is not including all disabled persons, and it needs to be the goal of this organization to help other disabled organizations lobby and advocate for their people's needs so that we have an equal playing field among the total disabled community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I would say I don't know that it needs to be this organization's goal. It might need to be some organization's goal. I think our interest is blindness, and I kind of threw that question in because whether we agree with it that that we should be able to earn more money, or whether our disability is more expensive, or whatever we might think, whatever we think. The reality is that we as blind people are fortunate that we are afforded the opportunity to be able to work and earn more money. And we're afforded that opportunity because of the work of the National Federation of the Blind. And so I wanted to just throw that in as a quick plug, that, things that do give us a little bit of a leg up. Many of those things that you look at, the Social Security for people in the Business Enterprise Program, unincurred business expenses, the right to be able to choose how we board on airplanes and not have to sit on blankets or mats in case we can't make it to the bathroom and pee in our seats or something like that. A lot of those things were things that people in the National Federation of the Blind fought hard so that we could have. And so I just wanted to kind of end by bringing that up and to remind everybody, that while we all have different opinions about a lot of these things, and sometimes we have lively discussions with each other and we convince one another to change our minds about a certain point, or we convince each other to think about things differently. As blind people, we're all working together to make a better world for ourselves and for other blind people. And so if you're not a member of the National Federation of the Blind, I would again encourage you to send us an email at assistance@nfbco.org or call our hotline 303-778-1130, extension 219, and we can hook you up with your local chapter or affiliate so that we can all work together and keep communicating and keep helping our philosophy to evolve, not involve. Does anybody else have any comments before we close?
6282.
Yeah, me. That number. Can you say it slowly so I can like go over my contacts and put it in and stuff?
Yep, sure. 303.
At first I gotta try to pull it up. I have it under NFB.
Hold on a second. Listen to me. I'm gonna stay on the line with you. I'm gonna let everybody else go ahead and get off. But if you just stay on, then I'll stay on with you and give you the number when you're ready. Okay.
Oh, okay. Because you was very fast.
All right. So just a few minutes and she'll get you that. Phone number 1892.
Okay, this is Debbie Brown. I'm just thinking, though, talking about the SSDI and all that and the income, and I agree that that's true. But one of the things I think that some disability organizations, and there's a wide variety of them, they like this sort of loosey-goosey definition of disability, and I think in the fight that will cost. We have legal blindness. It's a very tight definition. You got to have a certain visual acuity, visual field. And, I go to these disability groups and these sort of, I don't see that you have this, I have a hidden disability. If you can hide it that much, I wonder how disabling it is. And that sort of loosey-goosey, that's probably a philosophical discussion for another day. But I think the loosey-goosey definition will cost in a fight for, more generosity to people with disabilities.
All right.
Well, I don't know so much about loosey-goosey, but I take your point, and I would just say thanks to Maureen and Jessica and Kevin and all of you for another outstanding week. And remember, we've got more episodes next week, and be sure and spread the word about the 5 o'clock sessions we're having here together. Thanks, Jess and Maureen, for letting me crowd in here from time to time and have some really good fun of discussing this stuff with our colleagues. Thanks.
Yeah,
also,
absolutely.
You guys can search on YouTube, the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado, and we record all these shows, and we've got them posted up there.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Jess, you got, let's see, it wasn't 1892. All right, we're going to get that phone number again.
Are you ready?
628.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's 303.
Oh, wait. See, 303 instead of 313. Okay, 303.
778. 1130.
Oh, 1130. Okay, now I got it right.
Extension.
And you have
extension 219.
21. Wait, just let me put extensions first, and then 219.
Correct. You got it.
And who is that? What's the name?
That's for the Colorado Center for the Blind.
Yeah.
Okay. What's
our NFB Colorado hotline?
And the email is
assistance ASSIS
right
TANCE at NFBCO.org.
Right, that's what I had. Yeah, that's cool.
Right. There we go.
Oh, okay. And then Friday at 6 or Friday at 7 next week.
At
I don't know what zone you're in.
8
It's 5 Mountain Time.
8 o'clock Eastern. Yep, 8 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Mountain. Or the president's release is at.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. Oh, okay.
That's right.
What is the topic?
That's
going to be the presidential release. It'll be fun. You're going to love it.
Yep.
President stuff? The president?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
Everybody.
You too.
Thanks
I have a
for
question.
joining.
Thank you.
Can you tell me what if you? This is Amy Barron.
Yeah, Amy.
Hello. Hey,
Hi.
can I missed the episode? I know you're recording. Where do I need to go to look at the past one?
On YouTube, the National
Okay.
Federation of the Blind of Colorado.
Is it Colorado spelled out or CO?
Everything's spelled out.
Okay. So National Federation of the Blind of Colorado,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
everything is there.
Yep.
Thank you so much. You have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you. For
You too. Stay safe.
I am. You too. Have a good one.
Okay.
Bye bye.